Welcome all to another episode of Pokemon TCG Mythbusters. Yes, we are back with another card. This is a series in which we look at any and every card in the TCG, in the standard format I should say, and just go through all the little things that make the card good, make the card bad, and any few questions that you might have with this card. This is perfect for people who want to expand their decks or people who are new to the game. Before we start off, all this information is from my personal experience of both using and playing against this card, and we start off with Copperajah from Ablaze. Yes, I love Copperajah. Copperajah has had a good track record of cards since his debut. He's been pretty decent. I like Copperajah. 190 HP is very, very big for a stage 1. That is huge for a stage 1. That's over most normal GXs, most basic GXs. That's fairly big. Steel type, which is great because then you get things like Cryo Metal to take off damage. You get Metal Goggles to also take off damage and ignore damage counters, so things like Dragpop would have a hard time. You have things like Metal Saucer to accelerate energy as well. You've got a lot of good stuff for steel types right now. It is a very good typing to have. Retreat Cost to 4 is fantastic because buff padding also gets you 50 extra HP, so 240, which is even bigger for a stage 1. I think it's like one of the biggest HPs you can get for a stage 1 right now. So that is huge. Resistance to grass is fine. It's alright, I suppose. Biggest threat would probably be Rowlet, Alolan Executor, and Rillaboom VMAX. You don't really see much of them because Welder's kind of all over the place and Center Scorch is kind of keeping him at bay as well, so you don't really see grass types around, so it's alright. And Weakness to Fire is bad because, as we just said, Welder and Center Scorch is everywhere, so be very, very careful with your fire decks because they can sneak up on you. It'll be a challenge. But it has an ability and only one attack, and its ability is Antibacterial Skin. This Pokemon can't be affected by any special conditions, which is great. We're going to touch on that in a second. And for 2 steel, 2 colorless energy, Vengeful Stomp, 120 damage, and if your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them, it does 240 instead. So 4 energy, 240 damage is seems fair, I suppose. Seems fair. For the tankish HP, it breaks even with the energy cost, so yeah, I suppose that's fair. And also for this attack, again, like I said, you got Metal Saucer because it's a steel type. You have Twin Energy because it is a non-GX Pokemon, so you can cut this cost very, very quickly as well. So it's pretty easy. So going on to the questions, we're gonna go on the ability first. So as we said, Antibacterial Skin can't be affected by special conditions. So the first one is if I use a trainer card or an attack or an ability that puts both active Pokemon confused, poisoned, etc. by a special condition, let's just say, will Copperajah be affected? No. Copperajah ignores everything. So for example, you could have something like Team Yell Horn where it would confuse your opponent's active Pokemon. That would completely ignore it. That would completely ignore the effects, which is fantastic because obviously things like Burning Scarf as well, which love to go on fire types, which would leave you burned if you attack it, it doesn't affect it, which is great. It's pretty good. No little chip damage, so hey, that's a good thing. Can a Pokemon that negates abilities negate this ability? Definitely yes. Definitely. So for example, something like Galarian Weezing, whose ability is once it's in the active, you ignore all effects of every other Pokemon except for Galarian Weezing. Copperajah would also be affected, so that way you can do paralysis, you can do confusion, anything like that. Which goes on to the next thing. If a Pokemon that has an ability negating ability leaves the active, will Copperajah still be affected by that ability? No. So say for example Copperajah is, I don't know, burned for example. You put up Galarian Weezing up front, or let's say poison, because Galarian Weezing also poisons. So since it can now get affected by special conditions, Galarian Weezing now poisons it. Takes off damage counters, but as soon as you do boss's orders and you take Galarian Weezing off the active, you get rid of the poison. You basically heal yourself off of poisoning. You do not heal yourself off damage counters, or you do not heal all the damage that you have taken, you just get rid of the poison condition. So if you get 40 damage and do boss's orders next turn, you still keep the 40 damage. So be very wary because the chip damage will still stay. Next up, we'll go through the attack. So like we said before, Vengeful Stomp, 120, and if your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them, it does 240. So next thing we should ask is, does it have to be every Pokemon? No, it can literally just be one Pokemon. So this could work very well because all you could do is put up Spiritomb from Unbroken Bonds, who has an ability to just put damage counters on himself. You just do that one time, and that's it. You're good to go. 240 like that. That's really easy. Which also goes on to the next thing. How many damage counters needs to be on the bench? Just one. Just one on one Pokemon, and you hit 240. I don't understand how anyone else is using this. So the only way that you can make sure Copperajah gets 240 is to have one Pokemon with one damage counter, and that is it. Doesn't have to. You don't need a full bench. You do not need like damage counters on all your Pokemon. You could have a full bench of 5, but at least if one of them only has damage counters on, you're good. You are completely fine. If Copperajah is in the active and also has damage counters on, does that count for 240? No, it does not. If Copperajah is in the active and he's the only one with damage counters on, it will not make it 240. If you put Copperajah on the bench and bring out another Copperajah, that would work. A fresh Copperajah would work. But if the only one that has damage counters on is your Copperajah in the active, you will still hit 120. So I think in terms of what it can do, it's pretty cut and dry. It's a very good attacker. It's a very aggressive attacker as well. Energy cost, I'm not too fussed with it because again, 2 metal sources and a ton of energy and you're good to go. You can also do something like Zacian first turn, get a steel type energy and pull off an energy switch. That would also work with metal sources and twin energy. You're good. If you have your cards right, you could play this in one go. You could get this attack in one go. Also, to meet the conditions of the attack, like I said, you could do Spiritomb, you can have a tanky Pokemon up front, and then you can use someone like Jinx to swap damage counters over, so you can just bring it onto Jinx herself on the bench, or also anyone else at the bench that you choose, because Jinx doesn't have to be in the active to use it. But I think it's a very, very good card. And if you want to go for the special condition way, you can pull off something like, I don't know, Confusion Staff, bring in something like Parasect, who puts on damage counters if they're confused. You could pull off something like Ear-Ringing Bell on it if you don't want to add the extra HP. If you want to go more for the conditions, you can add in something like Ear-Ringing Bell, make them confused, and then Parasect gets the damage on afterwards. You can do a lot. You can do a pretty good amount of stuff with Copperajah, and I'm surprised not many people are using it. If you add in buff padding, that's 240. I think you're even higher than Copperajah V, and it still does the same amount of damage for energy around 200, around that much. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's good. Copperajah is very, very good in my opinion anyway. We should have a deck on him soon because I've just made a deck on him. I'm just kind of working out the kinks a little bit. But I think in terms of that, that's pretty much it. So yeah, so like I said, I think the best ones to go with it is obviously Zacian for the energy, Cryo Momentum to get off extra damage. You could do Jinx to switch damage counter over. You could do Spiritomb to get the condition running faster. You've got a lot of stuff at your disposal to use. It's very good. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video anyway. I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you guys like it, always click like and always click on the video, guys. Also welcome back. And also, if you have any other questions, ask me and I'll answer it the best that I can. But yeah, guys, thanks so much, and I'll see you all later. Okay, bye.